Hello everyone, welcome to this live demo and Q&A on City Cloud OpenStack. My name is Oscar and I'm the marketing manager at City Network, and with me today is Tobias Rydberg, one of the developers who've been working on the City Cloud OpenStack project. Welcome, Tobias.
Hi, thank you, Oscar.
With us is also Marcus Murval, our lead developer on the project. Welcome, Marcus.
Hi everyone, thank you.
This live demo and Q&A will be recorded and published on our webpage afterwards, along with all the questions, of course. So feel free to ask questions. Let's just give you a quick background story on City Cloud before we start the demo. Right around 2009, when the term cloud computing started to gain tremendous attention, we were researching the possibilities of launching a European IaaS. And we were past the planning phase at this point and just getting started with some tests, and the aim was, of course, to launch our own IaaS. So by comparing and evaluating the IaaS services available at the time, we saw an opportunity to simplify a market that was becoming increasingly complex as far as we saw. And during 2009, we set up a couple of POCs with different hypervisors and storage systems to figure out which way to go. After a couple of rounds with that, with different setups, we discovered that both our beta testers and even some valued customers started running actual production services in the cloud. So the system needed to reach an acceptable level of stability sooner rather than later at that point. All right, so late 2009, we launched City Cloud based on KVM and Solaris ZFS for storage. It was just a matter of being able to create servers. It had the scalability, cost efficiency, and flexibility, of course, but it was about creating servers scaled to fit your needs really fast and not have to worry about IOPS, processor cycles, and whatnot. In 2013, we hit a milestone when over 50,000 virtual machines have been created in the system thus far. We also added our second data center, which enabled our users to launch machines in two different locations from the interface. Early 2014, we consolidated multiple services into one single interface. City Cloud now became compute, storage, backup, and monitoring all in one. And we also added the third data center, this time together with our partner Interaction in London. Today, City Cloud is the only OpenStack-based IaaS running over multiple data centers in Europe, and now it's time to show you what OpenStack allows our users to do. So I'm going to leave it to Tobias, and of course feel free to ask your questions from within the interface, of course. Marcus and Tobias will try to answer as many questions as possible during the demo, and all other questions will be answered and published on our webpage afterwards. So I'll leave it to you, Tobias.
Okay, thank you, Oscar. As Oscar said, I'm Tobias Rydberg, and I'm a developer here at City Network. And I will be running the demo for you here. And by my side I have Marcus that will correct me every time I'm wrong or trying to fool you.
Yep.
And hopefully he will be able to answer some questions as well. So let's just get going here. In front of you right now you see our dashboard, which is a summarized page where you can see an overview of all your services that you have in City Cloud. Well, during this demo, I will try to create a complete environment for a small web application. That's the purpose of this demo. It will be a couple of web servers that will be load balanced, and we will also create a database and set up some simple firewall rules or security groups to make sure that only the web servers will be able to talk to it. So that's about it, and we will get going.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get started with creating some web servers. And we're here. First of all, we will set the name of the servers and choose in which location we would like to put them in our data center. We at City Network, we have 3 data centers, one in Karlskrona, one in Stockholm, and one in London, as you can see in front of you. and I will choose to put them in London for this demo. Yeah. You have a different selection of boot sources you can choose between. Either you can choose to start your server from an image or a snapshot or from a volume. I will choose image in this demo, and I will choose my favorite image, which is Ubuntu. To the right here, you can always see the costs that your current setup of the server. When I choose Ubuntu, I get some extra features that we have created here, which is allows you to install packages right after the launch of the servers. And since I choose to create some web servers, it will be nice to have some LAMP servers here, or get those packages. Since we are going to create a separate database, we don't install the MySQL server. Okay, so how many web servers do we need, do you think?
Let's go with 3, I think.
Okay, no more servers. And how big, how much RAM and cores do you think we want?
Well, you can keep them pretty small, assuming that we have the MySQL on a separate server. I would go with maybe 2 gigabytes to start with.
Both, yeah, and
let's take 2
as well.
cores as well. Yeah.
And to the right here, as I said earlier, you can follow the cost updates when you are changing the information, the server configuration. You can also change the root size of the disk here dynamically. So, for example, we choose 50 gigabytes here. And you can also choose to create to add this server to different networks. We have the default network which we will launch this server on, and we also have our other networks that we have created. And here we can see the demo network. Let's add it to that network as well. What happens is that we will get an interface on the server for each network. We can also, if we choose one network, create an external IP that is automatically connected to this server, which is floating IP. We will get into that later on. But since we since we're going to create a load balancer, we will not add an external IP here.
Yeah. So basically, the idea is that balancer which has a public IP, and the servers that we create only have internal IPs, and we use the load balancer to reach those servers. So go ahead.
Exactly. Okay, and here we have some other security stuff, and that's security groups, which basically is a set of firewall rules or grouped firewall rules which are applied to the server. And we will go with a default security group for this these servers. We can also choose our own username and password. I will go with the standard here and just choose my key pair here. Okay, so shoot. And now we can see the servers are being created in London. It will just take a few seconds for them to get ready. And as you see, now they are ready. The green circle to the left. And as we can see here, we can do a lot of things with a server. Here we have an overview of each server, which operating system or which interfaces that are connected to it, and which disks that are connected to it. You also have the possibility to modify the server. You can easily change the number of gigabytes in RAM and the number of cores and you can also attach or detach the different interfaces. You can have multiple interfaces on the same network, or one interface on each network that you choose to put your server on. You can also easily add volumes. We will get into that later on, or detach volumes as well. If you would like to get to assign floating, get a public IP to the server, it's very easy to assign a new floating IP. And floating IPs are very good in that sense that you get them into your pool, and if you will like to move the IP to another server, you easily choose from the server the IP in your pool. For example, we just add this one, and in a couple of seconds we have this IP, the public IP connected to the server at that specific interface that we chose, as we can see here. But since we are going to have the public IP to the load balancer, we disconnect this one. Okay, so at this cog here, we have some shortcuts, you can say. For example, to stop and start and pause your server, and even to clone if you would like to do that. We will try to do that later on as well. You can also do snapshots. As you saw earlier, we can boot a server from a snapshot. And for example, if you create a snapshot of this server here, you can easily spin up a new server based on that snapshot. Okay, so let's get going here to create a load balancer.
Go ahead.
We find the network to the left here and load balancers. And for now, we don't have any load balancers here, but we choose to create one. Web app, we call it. And it would be good to choose London here, I think, to be able to connect the server to. We have a lot of different options here, different protocols, algorithms, and it's the most important thing here is to choose which network to put the load balancer in. And I think we choose demo network for our server, so I think it would be good.
Let's go with it.
Yeah. And here we can choose to either assign a new floating IP or choose one IP from our pool. And let's assign a new floating IP to this one. And there we have it. We have the load balancer created, and we get a list of members that we can put into a load balancer. These members are, you can see to the left here, are servers that are located on the same network that we chose to put our load balancer in. Pretty logical, right?
Yep.
And we can choose to add them to the load balancer. And if we choose to save this member list, the traffic that comes to this IP will be load balanced between these three servers.
Yeah, correct. We should also mention here is that we actually got a question in the webinar forum here. It is possible to load balance servers that are not on the same network as well. The important thing is that the load balancer can somehow reach the servers that you want to load balance. So it might be that you have a server in a different data center, or perhaps you have a dedicated server, or even a server that's not in City Cloud at all. Then you can still load balance it. What you do is that you enter the IP in this box down here and simply hit the enter button. Once that is done, it will be added to the load balancer, just as if it was an internal server or on the same network. So the important thing is that every server that you load balance needs to be accessible by the load balancer. I can also mention that you can even the load balancer doesn't really care what it is that it load balance. So you can load balance another load balancer. So you can set up a load balancer in Karlskrona and point it to a load balancer in a different data center. It's all up to you, really. I just received another question here, so I will take that one immediately. The load balancer is basically a load balancer as a service. So the question was if it's hardware or software. It is software that is built in within OpenStack.
Yeah.
Right. Go on. Carry on.
Okay. Let's continue here. We choose to we can add a health monitor to this load balancer, which basically is polling where the health monitor is doing a check on all of its members if it is answering in the correct way. So, for example, we can do a ping with every 20 seconds, and with this setup here, and hopefully it will still be up. So if a server breaks down, it will be removed automatically from the load balancing. Pretty standard. Okay, now we have created a load balancer. Hopefully it will work as well, so let's try it. Since we choose Ubuntu, it will probably answer with the default page, and yes, it did. So we have a load balanced web application here between 3 servers. Okay, so the next thing, create the database server. So let's get back to creating a server. Create a database. And since I really like Ubuntu, I will choose Ubuntu for this one as well. And this time I just choose to install MySQL, since it's a database. And we will probably need a bigger server for this one.
Yep.
That's about it. And we just choose a small root disk, and put it on the demo network as well. And here we come to the security group rules. I have created a security group that is called database, that we will add this server to, and I will describe in more detail what that means later on. And just choose to go with my key pair as well and launch it. And there, it's running, and now we have a database server, and I will show you what I meant with the security group rules. And security group rules, security groups, as I said, is a bunch of firewall rules that are based on IP tables, and we can see here in more detail which rules we have. For example, servers that have this security group applied to it, it can connect from the server and out to internet or wherever from anywhere. But traffic to the server are only allowed to the port 3306, which is default MySQL port, and only from servers that are on this network as we see here. So that's pretty good for security.
Yep.
No one can talk to the database server except for the web servers that are in our application.
Yeah. Can also mention there that it's actually possible to set a creation rule that only allows connections from specified security groups. So for instance, if we were to create a security group named web servers, then we could basically set up a rule that says only servers that are in the web server security rule are allowed to do this, or allowed to connect to the database. So Tobias is showing me here.
Yeah.
So that's how it works.
Yeah, and then you choose your security group. So, for example, we can create a rule that says that only servers on that has the same security group as me will be allowed to talk to me. Okay, so since this is a database server, we will probably need some more disks since we choose to just create a small root disk on the server. That we have under storage to the left, you find volumes, which is disks. And I have one volume in Stockholm here, but we will need one in London as well, since that's where our servers is. And we call this database disk. Choose to put it in London, and 200 gigabyte, I think it will be enough.
Yep, go ahead. You might also want to mention a little bit about the disaster recovery service. I'm not sure how many of you have used the our Generation 1 servers, the old interface that we have. But basically, if you have, then you are pretty familiar with the disaster recovery service. It's actually called Snapshot in that old environment. But basically, what it does is that we automatically snapshot your volume or your server once a day. And you can, at any point, choose to just roll back to one of those snapshots. It's all available in the interface. We might go through it here a little later if we still have some time. But it's pretty intuitive, so it's quite easy to use. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. The volume is ready and created, and then now we would like to attach it to our database server. So let's get back to the server list. And we have our big database machine here. Click Modify. And here at Volumes, we can choose to attach a volume. And we will get a list of our available volumes. And yes, we only have one here, so it will be easy to find that one. We can also choose where to mount this one. If like, we just go with default here. And here the volume is attached, and this page will probably be reloaded. Yeah. And now we have this one in use. So this server will have an extra disk that are available. So we can start installing MySQL and get going.
Right.
But we won't do that right now.
No.
So what happens if we get a lot of traffic here and need more web servers? How can we solve that?
I would go with creating more web servers, and you can do that through either you can just snapshot it and create a new server from it, or we can go with a little quicker version, which is the clone server option that you're about to show. I'm guessing.
Yeah, exactly. That was what I was looking for. So we choose to clone the server, and what happens is that we create a snapshot of the server. So this is just a shortcut of doing a snapshot and creating a server from that snapshot. And we can choose to delete this snapshot automatically if we would like, and we will do that for you. But just go with creating it. And on the screen you will see what's happening. We are doing a snapshot of the server at the moment, and that snapshot will be uploaded, and then a new server will be created based on that snapshot. Hopefully this will go pretty quickly.
It's all depending really on the size of the image. Might also mention here that I get quite a lot of questions here, so I'm sorry if I'm a little bit off. But just to mention a few ones we wait. Now I see that it's finished. But we get questions regarding the networking and private images, basically. Let me just explain. When you create a server, you have the something that is called public images, which is what Tobias here used when he created the server. In his case, we created an Ubuntu server. We got a question here that says, what about if you want to use some operating system that is not available? Basically, what we are we will release something that is called private images, which allows you to upload your own image. It might be just an ISO for installation. It might be that you have a complete server that you have downloaded from some other provider, and we will allow you to upload that into this system. I was also asked when this functionality will be available, so we are aiming for release now in the second quarter. Hopefully in April, but I can't promise it for sure, but definitely during the second quarter here. Yeah, go ahead. The cloning is complete, so I will fill in with more questions later on.
Perfect. Okay, so let's add this one to the load balancing as well, since otherwise it doesn't do any good. So load balancers, and we have this one, and we can view this load balancer and edit it. And as we see here, we have the new web server available at the members list, and we drag this one into this one and just save the member list, and it will be added.
Right.
So, and now we have 4 web servers.
Yep.
Hopefully, it will answer as well.
Yeah. As you can see here, you have a little status button, the green little circle here. Basically, that shows the output from the health monitor that you assigned. So, if it's green, then it's considered active by the load balancer. If we were to shut down a server here, or the server would crash or stop responding for some reason, it would turn red. So that's how it works.
Yeah. Okay. One other thing that is new in this version of the interface, OpenStack City Cloud, is the object storage. And that is basically is a high available distributed consistent object storage.
Correct. That is one hell of a sentence.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah.
And that's about the same as Amazon S3.
Yeah,
if we would like to compare it to something.
Yeah, it's pretty equivalent. So basically, what it does is that when you create containers, after you have created a container, you can upload files to the container. These files will be automatically distributed among all nodes that are available in the zone that you have selected. Currently, we only have one zone, which is Sweden. It consists of 5 different data nodes that stores the data. Everything is handled automatically, so your data is safe. It's always available, unless all 5 nodes will go down at exactly the same time, which will never happen, knock on wood. So yeah, it's quite useful actually. You can also set, you can decide what kind of access privileges that you want to use for each container. As you can see here, you have private or public access read. There is actually, I can show you. There are, let's go with, if I edit this one, access control, you can see the different, there are different options that you have. Private is that it's restricted to your own users, and by users that is the API user that is assigned to the container. It can also be public, which means that it's listed here. It's everyone can read the files in it. Basically, it allows you, it gives you an URL that you can use, and everyone can read those files. You have referrer-based, which is you can choose to restrict access based on a specified IP or host name. And if you're really into this stuff, you can also create your own custom ACL That is not something that is easy to do, but if you have worked with Swift, then you can just type your own settings. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Do we have any files in it?
I'm not sure. This is your container, so I have
no test container. It's private. Maybe it's on.
Might
cool
be some
files in there. Oh,
yeah.
yeah. One image.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about it. I don't think we need to show that anymore. You can do quite powerful stuff with this, should you want to. We should perhaps take a look at the
more details about the volumes.
Yeah, I think we mentioned that earlier. That a volume is can be moved between different servers. You can also actually move them between different data centers. Perhaps you want to show that, Tobias.
Yeah, of course. As we can see here, we have a volume created in Stockholm. And for example, that could be the exact same case as with the database disk. We can actually copy this disk between data centers. For example, if you would like to create an exactly same type of web application environment in Stockholm or in Karlskrona, you can easily move your disk between those data centers, or copy the disk, that is. So we take this disk in Stockholm, for example, and move it to Karlskrona.
Yeah, actually it's a copy.
Yeah,
it's not a move. But yeah.
And choose the target zone here. It will be Karlskrona. This will take a couple of minutes, so maybe we will get back to that later on. But what is happening is that we are creating a copy at the current location, and that copy will be moved to Karlskrona, the target zone, so to say.
The snapshotting could take some time here, so I will just shoot in a question that we just received regarding volumes. Let me just find it. Is it possible? The question was: is it possible to have a volume mounted on several servers at once? It is not, in short. A volume can only be assigned to one server at a time. There is a separate project within OpenStack. I don't remember the exact name of it, but there is a project that is working on creating a shared volume storage as well. I don't really have any more information about that. I just remember reading the details about it. So it's on the way, but I'm guessing it's not that far ahead yet. It could probably take a year or something like that before it's production ready. You can use the object storage. I mean, the object storage is pretty much just object storage, so you can use that between if you want to assign it to different servers. But that, of course, requires different functionality, since it's object-based and you don't have an actual file system on it. But no, the current volumes cannot be shared between servers at the same time.
Good answer. Okay, so these disks, while we are here, or volumes, can, as we said, be snapshotted. So you can, at any time, create a snapshot that's different from the disaster recovery. Here, this snapshot is an OpenStack-based snapshotting, and you can do it whenever you like, and you can store it as long as you like. And you can easily create a new volume based on this snapshot as well.
Right. You can also, a volume can always be extended. So if it should turn out that you are running out of space, you can choose to increase. You can increase it directly here in the interface, or grow it, extend it.
Yeah. And while that is said, the copy to the new region or the new zone is finished.
Yep.
So now we have an exact copy of the demo disk available in Karlskrona, and can add that to any server that we have in Karlskrona.
Correct.
And hopefully we have any servicing. No, we don't. We can't do that.
You have no servicing customer.
No, I have no service. And yeah, and we can just demo for you how to extend the volume. You can not decrease the size, of course, but you can extend it. Pretty quick.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so the rest of the time here is supposed to answer questions and do demos of stuff that you have that you want us to demo, so to say. So just shoot in some questions. Otherwise, we will just continue here and do stuff.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions, so I'm having a hard time being able to keep up with them, to be honest. I will just go ahead. I will give you some answers on some of the questions that you have. Will you talk about pricing is one question. We won't go through that in this webinar, but all the pricing is available directly in the interface. It's also, I believe we have some blog posts out about it, and it's also viewable from the City Cloud homepage,
Yeah.
so citycloud.com or .se, depending on where you're from. Other questions that we have: will it be possible to connect your networks? Yes, it will be. There is a VPN service right now. I believe it's listed here. Yeah, but it's marked as coming soon. That will, once released, that is scheduled for the second quarter as well. Once that is released, you will be able to connect your networks between your data centers, or even connect your network to your, let's say, office network, or do whatever you want to do with it. So it's the VPN is a VPN as a service, so it's not a server that you set up in order to do it.
It's software-based.
Yeah, it's software-based. More questions. Let's see here. If you modify the size of volume and try to recreate it from a snapshot before the size change, how does the snapshot behave? I have to read that question again, I believe. If you modify the size of... I don't really follow that question, to be honest. Let's go with another one. How about orchestration?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, orchestration is actually available today, but not in the actual interface. In order to do orchestration today, you need to use the API, the OpenStack API. For you that don't know what orchestration is, basically it allows you to create a whole environment automatically. So what Tobias did here today in the demo, he created a load balancer, set up some web servers, a database server. You can do that automatically through the API. So
it's a templating.
Yeah, it's a templating tool really that allows you to do those stuff automatically. As I said, it's available now if you use the API. We will, however, implement it in the interface quite shortly, I believe. I would guess second quarter there as well. There's a lot to be done in the second quarter, no doubt. So it's on the way.
Okay. Do we have more questions?
I have another question. Does server modification, like if you add memory or cores, require a reboot? Yes, it does. Let me show you. If we take our database over here and go with modify, we want to use a little more ROM. So when I hit the save button here, you will actually see a little confirmation just to give you that information. It will trigger a reboot. Depending on the operating system, that reboot can be pretty fast. I know that I measured it sometime with a Linux operating system, and I lost about 6 seconds of packages. But again, it's all depending really on what kind of operating system that you use. Let's see if we have any
We
more.
can follow this one as well, since we will get a confirmation box as well.
Yeah, correct. You will. I will leave it for you to
Yeah,
I will continue
I
looking
continue
at
this one. Find out some question.
Yep.
Yeah, the resize here will give you an exclamation mark to the left here that tells you that you need to verify your resize. The server right now actually has the new size implemented, but and the only thing you need to do is to confirm it. You can either confirm it or cancel it, and if you cancel it, it will get back to the old configuration that you had.
Yep.
And we confirm this one.
Yeah.
I think we really need this kind of.
Yeah. Another good question here. Can you have console access to your servers? Yes, you can. Tobias, can you go through real quick the little action button that you have on the servers?
Yes.
Where you have some
we
options.
have some shortcuts here, as I mentioned earlier, and we also have a shortcut to the console, which will get the console up in a new window. We have the name of the server, and you can see we have a login window. You can also open this in a new window, and it's only accessible through the City Cloud interface.
Correct.
Yeah. So it doesn't have any external possibility.
No, you can't. Unfortunately, at this point, you can't use any external VNC clients.
Yeah. And this console is also available under the Connect here and VNC console.
Yeah.
You can also view the console output in text.
Right. More questions. Is it possible to move servers between projects? Not at this point, but it will be available. Actually, you saw us demoing when we moved a volume between data centers. We will add the possibility to move servers between data centers as well, and at the same time, it will be possible to move a server or copy a server to a different project. So it's not there right now in the interface, but it will be available.
We have not set a date for that yet, but hopefully that will come pretty soon as well.
Yeah, I've promised a lot of second quarters here, but it's second quarter or third quarter, just to throw it out there.
Yeah. Any other questions? A lot of questions, I see.
There are tons of questions I'm reading up here. With IP table rules, we can also firewall access to the server. Yes, you can. The security group is basically IP table rules. So what Tobias showed earlier, it allows you to decide what ports should be open and what protocols should be open to your server. We should perhaps also mention that there is a firewall as a service coming into OpenStack as well. So that will be another option, but it's not there quite yet, and it's probably not available until autumn this year.
No problem. Yeah. More questions?
Yeah, I'm looking
to be answered. Or should I just go through the key pair functionality?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, key pairs, or actually, it's just your public SSH keys that you can upload. It will be available to create keys in our environment, but also something that will be released later on. I have not set a date for that either, but you can easily today create your key pairs at your own laptop and upload them into here. Just choose a name for it and where to put it. I will put it in all data centers, and then you add your key into this box. I don't have that key right now. And you can also copy your keys to another data center. So for example, if I would like to copy my test key to London, that will be possible.
Right, more questions. I know that I saw a good one. There, one question is if the server is available during a snapshot. Yes, it is. When you create a snapshot from a server or a snapshot from a volume, the server is up and running and responding to requests during the time. So that's good. Database service. I don't think we mentioned database service, did we?
No, we didn't. We didn't.
That is another upcoming feature. So it's database as a service, and it's very difficult to set a date here, but I would guess that it will be during the third quarter.
Yeah.
That we will release that. Yeah, that's about it.
Let's get back to the snapshot and see if it's ready. So it's still working.
I have one question here. If I use the API, do you collect logs also? Should perhaps explain here that there are two different sets of API. If you have worked, we have our own City Cloud API that we have for all of our services, not just for the OpenStack. We use it for the Generation 1 service. We have it for City Monitor, the monitoring service that
online
we use.
Backup.
Yeah, online backup as well. So if you use that one, the logs that you have down here will be collected and shown just as this one here. If you use the native OpenStack API, which basically allows you to go directly to an OpenStack endpoint, we will not gather those logs. I'm hoping that was the question. So it's really depending on which API endpoint that you use. If you use the City Cloud API, everything works the same. You use your same users, you have the same security settings, you have the same privileges as you have set up. But if you use the native OpenStack API, then you will, I can actually show you that. You can create a user here, which is a native API user for OpenStack. And you choose what projects that user should have access to, but there aren't any logs gathered. Another question, which version of OpenStack are you using? We are currently on the latest stable version, which is Juno. The killer release is coming up in
30th
of April, yeah. So we will switch to the killer release as soon as possible after it has been released. But currently we are on the latest stable version. So Juno.
Juno, yeah.
Another question, can you access service with SSH or is it only by control panel? All servers that you create, for instance, if we look down here, the service that we created earlier today, this server right now can only be accessed by the VNC console. The reason for that is that we don't have a floating IP assigned to it.
Public IP.
Yeah, or a public IP. So if we create a floating IP and add it to the server, then you can SSH to the server, assuming that you have allowed such access in your security group. If you would add a security group that blocks SSH access, then of course it won't be possible to do so. Yep. Will I be able to migrate my Generation 1 service to OpenStack? Currently, we don't provide such a tool. So we don't allow you, or we don't have a tool that kind of package your Generation 1 server and upload it into OpenStack. It might be available sometime, but currently we do not support it. What you can do is that you can, of course, migrate it yourself by just moving data from the server. Another question, do you limit IOPS? No, we do not. We allow servers to use as much IOPS as it can, as long as it doesn't disrupt the system as a whole.
Do we find any other questions?
Yeah, there are a lot of questions. I'm trying. Most of them are duplicates, so that's why it's taken some time to look through. Support for process monitoring. It kind of depends on what you're asking. We have the City Monitor tool, which allows you to basically make a request. It might be a ping, it might be try to load a web page or similar and read the response from it. So you can use that if you have, for instance, a web page that checks if the process is running, then yes, you can do it through that. If you are looking for a more of a client-based, let's say if you are used to OP5 or Nagios or similar, then we can provide that as well, but it's not available here in the control panel. Let's see if I can find any more questions. Another good question that we get quite often is, can you load balance the load balancer between your different data centers to avoid single point of failure? If you use the load balancer as a service, then it's always running in one data center. So if you create a load balancer in Karlskrona, it will run in Karlskrona. If you create a load balancer in Stockholm, it will run in Stockholm. If entire Stockholm goes down, that load balancer will go down. That being said, if you have multiple load balancers in different data centers and you have the possibility to choose where to send the traffic. I mean, if Stockholm goes down and you have Karlskrona up, you can, if you have the possibility to redirect the traffic to Karlskrona, then it can still be up. Let's say that you use a domain name for your web service and you have a short time to live setting, then you can just point the domain to the other IP or remove the IP that is currently down. There is also the possibility to use software like, for instance, pfSense and set up automatic load balancing that way. But in that case, you are not using the load balancer as a service, but it's actually a server that you install the pfSense software on.
I found a question here as well regarding the server toolbox icon. What's the difference between pause and stop, and how does it affect cost?
Also a good question. What it does is that if you stop a server, it goes into what is called the shutdown, shut-off state, actually. It's called shut-off in OpenStack. So if I stop a server here, it will power off. Once powered off, you will only be charged for the storage cost. CPU and ROM is not charged at this point. You also have some in the cost tab here. You have some estimated monthly cost and such. So if it's turned off or shut off, only disk is charged. If you have a running server or a post server, we charge you the same. So if it's active or if it's paused, it still uses and binds up resources and ROM. So a paused image or a paused server is charged as if it was active.
I had another question here about floating IPs and if they do float between data centers.
At this point, it does not, unfortunately. We are looking into ways of solving that. But currently, an IP span is broadcast in a specific zone. Another question that I found here, is there any network throttling based on the instance size and the interface, and is the interface speed shared with I/O to the provision volumes? Basically, no. We allow the same, regardless on the size of your server, regardless of how much RAM and core that you use, you will get the same network speed. We don't limit that in any way.
Any other questions?
I have one question, and I hope I haven't already done this or answered this one. What is going to happen with the Generation 1 VMs? Just to have it explained, in Tobias interface here, you have Generation 1 service down here. Everyone don't have that one. It depends on when you registered for the City Cloud service. The Generation 1 is not based on OpenStack. It's only the new one that is based on OpenStack, or the regular one. The Generation 1 service will continue to exist as it is. So if you have servers in there, we won't shut them down or anything like that. So for those of you that have both the new service or the OpenStack service and the Generation 1 service, when you create a server, you can simply choose if you want to spin it up in your Generation 1 environment, or if you want to use the new OpenStack environment.
Okay, let's go for one more. Last one, and then we will answer all questions and publish them to our webpage later on.
What types of load balancing types exist?
The algorithms, or
I'm hoping that it's algorithm that he's asking. If you go in there, I'll show you. Yep.
I'm on my way right now.
I need to create. You can't change it after you have created it, unfortunately. So the as for the algorithm, there are two ways. It's round robin. So I'm guessing most of you know where it is. Basically, the first request goes to the first server, the second request goes to the second server, and so on. Least connections is exactly what it sounds like. It sends traffic to the server that currently has the least connections. We also have something that is called session persistence. Basically, if you have a web service app that use sessions, you might use, let's say that you use session cookies that is stored on local storage. Then you don't want users to change web servers on each request, because if you do that, you will end up with a new session. So there are three different types of session persistence here. You have source IP, which is based on the originating IP of the requests. If the it tracks the it tracks states, basically. So if a request is made from an IP, it will make sure that all the rest of the request will be sent to the same load balancer member or server in this case. You also have HTTP cookie, and you have no session persistence. So those are the options. I'm hoping that was your question, Henrik.
All right. That's it for today. So, yeah, thank you all for joining in on the live demo. The demo has been recorded, and the recording, as well as all the questions, will be published on our webpage. We'll send you a follow-up email with the links. If you haven't already registered and tried it out, go to citycloud.com and register for the service. We're also on Twitter @CityCloud. If you have any further questions, just shoot us an email and we will answer it. Well, thank you. Thank
you all. And hopefully you got some answers here.
Yeah.
Or even more questions.
All questions will be answered and published, so just wait for that follow-up email.
And as Oskar said, don't hesitate to shoot us an email if you have further questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.